The Fundación Paz Ciudadana, together with the support by Motorola Solutions Foundation and the IACA, have organized the international contest in this area, and were initiatives and projects for the prevention of crime and violence in cities and neighborhoods. And so this morning, we're going to hear about the projects from the municipality of Peñalolén, the regional UNDP Center for Latin America. And so each one has 15 minutes. First of all, the initiative of the municipality of Peñalolén, Viana Palma, for the Human Security Observatory that arose from the local policy in the commune, a dynamic and multidimensional phenomena such as violence and delinquency. The value proposal is a continuous improvement of local management of security by managing information and consultancy and innovation, focusing on the needs of the municipal teams and institutions linked to them, together with the community. So welcome, Mayor Viviana, and thank you very much for being with us today. Well, thank you for the invitation to take part. My greetings to Daniel, all the speakers, and I will hand over to Viviana to speak because we have a bit of a timetable overlap. But well, Viviana here is the head of the observatory, and she will be doing it impeccably, and so and with great passion, as we do everything in this commune of Peñalolén. So thank you very much once again, and we're happy to share our experience in this area. So thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Nicolas, and good morning, everyone. As we well said, the possibility of today having an observatory for human safety in Peñalolén has to do with our interest in continuously improving what we do and the will by the mayor to continuously improve management in terms of security, such a complex issue, and that we have been constantly trying to read and understand how people experience this, how these issues are experienced at territorial level. Let me share the presentation. If you give me a second here.
Bueno, muy rápidamente, ustedes conocen Peñalolén, pero no todos los que están hoy día en esta instancia. Nuestra comuna es diversa y ha enfrentado un fuerte proceso de crecimiento en los últimos 10 años. Estamos hablando de un 10% más de aumento en vivienda, un 12% de población y cerca de un 9% en todo lo que es comercio. Y esto, sumado a las condiciones sociodemográficas de la comuna, también ha incidido en que las problemáticas y las violencias han ido mutando, tanto desde el punto de vista del territorio como de las personas, en calidad de víctimas y de victimarios. Acá rescatar también que es una comuna joven que tiene un desarrollo importante en los últimos años y sobre todo está emplazada en la zona oriente de Santiago, una ciudad con una distribución urbana poco equitativa. Entonces también tenemos una demanda ciudadana particularmente fuerte en temas de seguridad asociada a la prevención situacional y al control. Y eso es un factor que también determina el cómo podemos nosotros ampliar la mirada en términos de la importancia de la prevención social también del delito. Ya les decía yo, la complejización de las violencias es un problema, además de las violencias en sí que se presentan en Peñalolén, y sobre todo tiene que ver con, bueno, lo observábamos también muy claramente en el panel anterior, hay una tendencia a la baja de las denuncias, sin embargo la demanda por seguridad va en aumento y eso está asociado, por supuesto, al sentir ciudadano en relación a lo que pasa en los territorios. Y en ese sentido nosotros como gestión local de seguridad y con una política local de seguridad humana, de seguridad ciudadana anteriormente, hoy de seguridad humana de larga data, también fuimos incorporando estos cambios y el rescate de esta vivencia ciudadana en torno a las problemáticas de seguridad. Nosotros somos una comuna que tiene una distribución macrosectorial también particular, con dinámicas territoriales bien específicas, con barrios, algunos de ellos cerrados, condominios que conviven con viviendas digamos, con condiciones de hacinamiento en algunas zonas, en otras zonas con allegamientos, familias, etcétera, y zonas también donde nosotros vamos observando desde el inicio de la política pública, perdón, de la política local de seguridad y con el paso del tiempo, cómo ciertas violencias se superponen en los territorios. Y eso es algo que la alcaldesa lo menciona siempre porque nos pide georreferencia en tal o cual información y vamos dando como en el fondo con territorios que tienen una configuración similar, donde hay concentración de violencia intrafamiliar, violencia contra la mujer, presencia de niños, niñas y jóvenes en el estado 24 horas, y esta experiencia de ir mirando las cifras que existen, las oficiales, y haciendo sentido respecto de las cifras que teníamos que construir, es lo que nos lleva a pasar de la unidad técnico-metodológica que estaba liderando fuertemente el diseño de herramientas en prevención situacional fundamentalmente para la seguridad, a un observatorio que asuma también, como bien señalabas tú, Nicolás, no solamente la revisión de las cifras oficiales, sino que construir datos más ricos desde el punto de vista también cualitativo y del sentir ciudadano. Y empezamos a ver el tema de la incidencia delictiva, entendida también como aquellos registros que están dados por incluso nuestros propios servicios y que van nutriendo y van revelando otros territorios. Nosotros podemos ver ahí en la cartografía, podemos observar cómo están georreferenciados, perdón, voy a checar esto, georreferenciadas las cifras de delitos y también los llamados de nuestro número único, 1461, que bueno, la mayoría de las comunas hoy día también cuenta con este servicio, que si bien es un servicio de seguridad y emergencia, lo que hace es que revela la incidencia delictiva otros territorios que no están siendo focalizados por las cifras oficiales, stop de carabineros, denuncias fiscalía, ciertos procedimientos de PDI, etc. Entonces, lo que hace esta incidencia delictiva es ampliar la mirada a otros focos en el territorio. Y bueno, en el fondo también toda esta información tiene que tener un sentido y nosotros creemos que ese sentido tiene que ver con datos para la acción. Nosotros no somos un ente académico, estamos mandatados como parte de la Dirección de Seguridad Humana para actuar en el territorio y en la prevención de las violencias, a partir también del rol que establece la ley para las direcciones de seguridad, y en este caso de seguridad humana, ¿no? Entonces, en ese sentido, lo más importante tiene que ver con que la información sirva para actuar, para poder ponderar, evaluar los riesgos y también visualizar oportunidades. En ese sentido, como observatorio, tenemos una misión y objetivos que están dados por este análisis de información de las violencias, incorporar también fuertemente el tema de las incivilidades, que, insisto, no solamente están en las cifras y reconociendo excelentes herramientas como la sala SEAT y la información que proviene desde la subsecretaría en ese sentido, también está dada por lo que hacen otros actores, por nuestra capacidad de gestión municipal de trabajar transversalmente en los temas de seguridad. Trabajamos con deportes en torno a las violencias, en torno a espacios deportivos, con cultura, ponderando también oportunidades para poder trabajar fuertemente la prevención social en barrios. Los datos tienen que servirnos para la acción y, por supuesto, para la toma de decisiones de la autoridad, de los tomadores de decisión y que estas decisiones sean informadas. Y la coordinación de acciones informadas también es otro elemento que nos gustaría destacar en términos de cómo va ayudando a optimizar esta coordinación. Muchas veces desde la gestión pensamos en que la coordinación per se es buena, pero claro, si esta coordinación no es informada, no llegamos a una comprensión común del problema, difícilmente también vamos a llegar a que las soluciones contemplen estas visiones comunes y este aprendizaje común. Entonces, en ese sentido, nuestra labor está también orientada a insumar esa coordinación. Hablamos también de asesoría metodológica, que puede ser un tema que en términos de los observatorios no está tan explorada, pero tiene que ver con la mejora continua, con poder revisar los diseños, ya lo decían anteriormente. Muchas veces miramos la evaluación como un proceso ajeno, como un proceso que está asociado a tener los recursos para poder licitar una evaluación, y nosotros como observatorio y como gestión local hemos aprendido que la evaluación tiene que ser parte de los diseños, de los modelos. Estamos fuertemente dedicados a trabajar con los equipos de trabajo, a involucrarnos con los equipos de trabajo, incluso en las intervenciones, para poder comprender y poder tener indicadores adecuados para esa evaluación. Y sobre todo también fuertemente dedicados al aprendizaje continuo sobre el enfoque de seguridad humana. Necesitamos empapar a los distintos actores involucrados en esta gestión que es transversal, que no depende de una dirección, sino de una gestión municipal, respecto de los elementos centrales de la política local de seguridad humana, lo que nos orienta y por supuesto de nuestro plan comunal de seguridad humana, que fue construido en un proceso de co-creación con las distintas direcciones del municipio e incluso con otras instituciones del territorio para poder tener esa visión también plasmada en dicho plan. En relación a la gestión de información, señalar que también responde a la realidad local. Y en ese sentido uno puede pensar que contar con un observatorio es una apuesta riesgosa en el sentido de que igual hay recursos involucrados. Pero claro, son recursos limitados y nosotros también entendemos que tiene que ver con poder optimizar la ejecución presupuestaria incluso de las iniciativas. Por lo tanto, es un observatorio que se hace cargo de un problema complejo, asumiendo la limitación de recursos y también sopesando en términos de creatividad y de alianzas estratégicas con distintas instituciones para poder llevar a cabo estas ideas de mejoramiento, esta evaluación continua, el refuerzo de los equipos de trabajo en términos de contenido. También creemos que es una apuesta fuerte por la focalización y en ese sentido, como les decíamos, concentración de violencia en ciertos territorios. Mirar qué sucede si en ciertos territorios donde se concentra en violencia, hoy día no estamos contando con alguna oferta más específica, cómo poder allegar recursos para poder implementarla. Por supuesto, también queremos hacer énfasis en la calidad de las intervenciones, en cómo las intervenciones se pueden ir nutriendo respecto de su propio
can be noticed regarding their work. And in this sense, I would like to highlight the political and technical will of the mayor so that we can make that this assessment, these learning points, and this reflection that we do in terms of profile interventions and the risk of intervention can impact the public policies to have a scale up of these solutions so that we can contribute to their development. Assessment as a permanent process, and also to highlight, to see the perception of the security in the neighborhood. We have a survey and a follow-up. The last one that was executed by the Undersecretary in 2016, but we had budgeted survey in the previous year where all indicators that stem from that survey has to do with the communal or district plan, allow us to make necessary adjustments during the implementation in order to avoid a risk. And it is also important to systematize the experience, the design of new services. I have not time, I'm running out of time, as I was advised. And this has had implications in terms of outcome. The design of new services also is with the support of the work teams of the observatory. Continuous information to make decisions in regards to a diagnosis. The tools and the district plan are not static. They have to nourish themselves and to be updated all the time. And also we have several outputs that we generate and socialize with the municipality, as I said, so that we can improve the management of other institutional stakeholders that can see their role and power. As an evidence, we are moving strongly in terms of generating that. And for this, the idea is to talk about evidence, is to talk about program based on figures and process and manual procedures. We will have a manual of our key program, and we have 14 years of experience so far in regards to a program that adapts to this changing reality. So what we want to accomplish with this work of the Observatory of Human Security is how we can progress in the solution and to face the problems, that we don't just stick to one problem, but try to understand what happens with these problems, with the feeling of the people, and we can accomplish this shared understanding of violence in regards to the causes, effects, and how we can together find and reach the better possible solutions. And we have to highlight that it's very important to professionalize the institution and the management of information, that is possible to have processes with the work teams to set capacities, to build capacity, and to optimize what we're already doing. We are a district with few resources and many problems. Therefore, the idea is that the information is useful to optimize what we're already doing and to find creative solutions to problems that are there in regards to what other stakeholders can do or cannot do, so that shared understanding favors creativity in order to bridge the gaps that we have. And this data standardization also is relevant at a municipal level, and also to see how this information, how as an entity that supports security, can provide sustainability to the local security policy in regards to the research. At the challenge level, to close my words, we need to communicate our outcomes to improve our dissemination channels of this generation of knowledge, and also to move forward in what we have been doing to impact in public policy in regards to our learning and what we have done in terms of review of a life trajectory in regards to different situations that people have lived, and to socialize. And we thank a lot the opportunities that we have to tell about what we're doing. Thank you.
That's it, Nicolas. Very well. Thank you very much for that intervention.
Estamos todavía en línea con los tiempos. Muchas gracias.
We're back online with the timetable, and we thank the mayor for her greetings. To return now with the next presentation on the system of information for security and coexistence and team for care and reparation of victims in the town hall of Medellin, Colombia. The index of the risk of victimization, a tool for the prevention of urban violence. And so we're going to hear the chances of people who live in Medellin. Well, good morning, everyone. And now we thank the organizers for inviting us to be part of this and share our experience. And so we're going to share our screen.
Muy buenos días también a todos. Ya les
Good
comparto la.
morning, everyone. Let me share the presentation. Jessica and Natalia and myself will be sharing this presentation. And there are also other colleagues who have been part of the experience.
Bueno, por favor, si no, que desde listo. Bueno, la experiencia la hemos denominado índice de riesgo de.
We've called this the Index of the Risk of Victimization, a tool for preventing urban violence. This is our experience in connection with the Secretariat for Security and Coexistence and also the Secretariat for Non-Violence, two entities in the purview of the town hall in Medellin that have joined up not only for this index, but also acting together in relation to understanding issues related to victimization that have an impact in the city and are linked to expressions of urban violence. We've been able to construct this index thanks to institutional coordination, which is a part of our learning. And so, this information is important to identify for those of you who don't know Medellin. Medellin is divided into 16 communes or districts, which you see here in orange. And this is the urban area, the urban part of the city. And also there are 5 townships, which is the rural part. And you can see here in green. And the urban area, although less in extension, population density is higher, and so most of these issues affect the urban area more than the rural one.
Activa el micrófono.
Buenos días. Bueno,
Good morning. Well,
hacemos análisis de las series temporales de los delitos.
we've analyzed the time series of crimes, also spatial analysis for each crime as a whole, which helps us to identify the parts of the city where we must assign priority. And so that is why we devised an index on the risk of victimization at micro-territorial level. So now we're going to share the methodology and the conception explaining how the index was constructed. The issue we identified is that certain districts, despite the high victimization, were not being attended or serviced institutionally in the same way. And we believe that this had to do with a lack of information, lack of objective data to direct decision-making and giving priority to certain types of interventions. For example, what happened in 2017 in 3 parts of the city, very, very complex in terms of victimization, and we saw a rise in urban violence. One of these was Commune 7, the next Commune 13, and the Alta Vista township. However, Commune 7, in comparison with the other 2 territories, although the dynamics was very complex, did not receive the same institutional services as the other territories. And when we say services, this is a way of taking up the discussions taken at territorial level by the Committee for the Prevention of Crime. And we're also referring to early warnings by the Ombudsman, and where we are identifying areas of risk and victimization in the city. All in all, about Commune 16 and Alta Vista Township. In this case, they were intervened by the public authorities and also early warnings. So all of this is what we've identified as issues to be addressed somehow if we wanted to affect this index of the risk of victimization. Now, regarding the references for the or concepts for the proposal, the first has to do with risk management, that is, the ability to identify ways of following up of these events that could affect the rights of people, groups, and communities. And this is the scenario of prevention. This index follows risks linked to breach of the right to life and personal safety, understanding urban violence as a phenomenon that has persisted for more than 40 years and has coexisted with other practices or expressions of urban violence, and with an impact with arming of groups and that take to control certain areas illegally. And so the risk index picks up on 3 repertoires of violence, not directly linked to homicide, because homicide has been classified as homicide linked to organized crime. And also interurban displacement is another area of violence, and then the use of firearms. Although these are not the only aspects of violence that are part of the expressions of urban violence, these are three victimizing facts that have had a relevant impact on the city and that have persisted and are still valid today, which means that they've been given priority in measuring the risk.
Nosotros diseñamos un marco
We've
metodológico
designed a methodology selecting the variables considered in constructing the index and the visualization to show the results.
seleccionamos las
So we selected the variables based on victimizing events under a law of 2011, 1448, and that had an impact on facts in Medellin, and that also we had information about with a geographical location of where the crime was committed. And so we've considered three crimes: homicide by organized crime and forced displacement and injuries due to firearms. Simultaneously, we decided to divide the city up in a series of hexagon of approximately 500 meters each. Each hexagonal polygon is what we will hereon call grid. Very well. Now, to construct the database for the index, we did monthly counts of each crime at each grid. And we've done this, we've analyzed since 2016 to compare between the 13.
los datos normalizados, implementamos una metodología.
So here we implemented a methodology with the main components in order to provide the weights of participation of each of those crimes in the construction of the whole index. And once we had the weights that we built for 2019, and we produced a specific global weight with the outcome of the whole, each of the months of the year. So we were able to build an index in a linear fashion, and we implemented a spatial methodology in which we were able to take into account the outcome of the index of the neighbors that were located at a distance of 1 kilometer. Finally, we implemented a optimization method, a non-parametric metric, and we map all the results in 5 categories between very low and very high. As part of the outcome of the victimization index, here we can observe in the left side of the screen the risk index per year and by district, and in the right side the maximum risk index by district and by year. Let's say that in those two scenarios, in the first one, we can see an index that is between low and average, or very low, in most of those districts, with the exception of San Javier, where you can notice that is highlighted. And in the following scenario, that is the maximum risk index by district and by year, we see a more problematic scenario. Almost all in red means that is a high risk index, like in different places of the city. And in both scenarios, we will see the prioritization of the intervention in those territories. And that could be complex for the institutional agencies, as we see a scenario that is not so critical as we might think so. And the other, which is absolutely critical, understanding that these are very large districts that could be difficult to say in which part of the district, a specific sector of that district, we need a further intervention by the state. So these outcomes rendered by the index, although they are relevant, the contribution, the new contribution of the tool, as we will see later on, has to do with prioritizing micro territories, or if you wish, polygons of 500 meters, so as to be more accurate in the institutional intervention. Remember that we previously saw 2017 example with the district and how we have the Alta Vista township that we see, and it's quite complex at that year. And we saw that the district didn't receive so much institutional attention as it happened in the 17 district and Alta Vista township. Applying the index result, we see that in fact that the district 7 for that year had an index of risk index that is quite high, above the one that is seen in the district 16 and Alta Vista township. And if we would have had that tool at that time, we would have been able to make evident on the result of that index the need of prioritizing the intervention not only in the District 16 and Alta Vista Township, but also in the District 7 during 2017.
Bueno, acá pueden ver
Here,
los resultados.
you can notice the outcomes. We mapped the outcome from January 2016 until September 2020. And we can notice how we see the outcomes out in the across the different territories. On the left side, we can notice the index showing those red points where we should focus our intervention due to the outcomes that we receive in the index. And in the right side, we have the outcome of the index showing those hit points, including a rule that are basically the effect of seasonality, meaning that those places, new places in the city where we should be focusing our attention, but also tell us those places with a temporal lag that we should still be considering in order to prioritize them. So here we show the analysis of August 2020, where we can notice the red points or hit points in the western side of the city. That is quite remarkable in the left side. In the spatial index outcome on the right side, bearing in mind the temporal delay, we notice, as you bear in mind, in the northwestern part, in the northern part, where still we should be focusing our efforts. And for September, we see that these red points are in the center of the city and also in the northern area, whereas in the right side, including the rules and seasonality, we can notice that we should prioritize the center part, but also bearing in mind the western part of the city. Here, we show two grids in the northwestern part of the city, in the Robledo district, showing that although there are peaks and valleys that share by the two polygons which are nearby, there are places or months, she corrects herself, where the dynamic changes. So certainly that shows how the risk of victimization goes to a different place in the territory of the city. Early on, we didn't clarify something, but it's worthwhile to mention that this is an exercise that is ongoing. It has been built, and we still need to improve. And finally, is a flexible methodology that adapts as we identified other needs or information to be included in the index. So here we hope to have the following outcome, and that has to do with the tool to be socialized in decision-making scenarios so that it can be adopted as a strategy or like a early warning strategy. So the tool itself does not guarantee to be applicable or used, but we need or we hope to be used in territorial local scenarios of decision making, where they determine which are the actions to be undertaken in terms of prevention. We hope also that as part of the output of this index, we can build risk reports that not only include these quantitative and spatial elements, but also qualitative elements that can enrich the reading and the understanding of the victimization associated to urban violence. And hopefully, we want this to facilitate and empower the institutional articulation for the management, not only of the early prevention of those actions that are necessary to prevent risk, but also to allow decision making on an urgent manner vis-a-vis risks that are about to take place. So we end with lessons learned. There's no doubt that to reach the victimization index would have not been possible without this practice of institutional articulation between the reparation of victims and the decision information system. And here, this is a learning point that is quite relevant, that also will be key on that each tool finally can be adopted in the decision-making panel. The following is that the purpose of this type of experiences is not other than guide or to provide input for informed decision-making process. These tools also give us another learning that has to do with the need of prioritizing micro-territorial interventions as the district level analysis sometimes lose specificity, and therefore we need a demand from the institutional framework more thoroughness in the micro-territorial analysis. These would be the lessons learned so far that, as I said a while ago, is still ongoing. Thank you for your attention and for facilitating that space. Thank you for your intervention, Jessica and Natalie, and we thank the whole team that has worked in this initiative. Finally, we'd like to invite Marcela Smoot and Juan Pablo Gordillo from the United Nations Program for Development, PNUD, that will introduce the regional PNUD program InfoSegura. InfoSegura. The purpose is to strengthen the public policies designed based on evidence, improving the quality and the comparability of the regional information in citizen security, increasing coordination and collaboration at the national and regional level for the implementation of effective strategies in Central America. Welcome, Marcela. Welcome, Juan Pablo. Thank you, Nicolas. Good morning. We'd like to thank the Paz Ciudadana Foundation for inviting us to participate from this initiative. And it's a privilege to share this panel with the colleagues of the mayors of Peñalolén and Medellín that have a long trajectory working on this subject. We will share with you the experience that we have developed since the regional center of PNUD in terms of security, supporting the development of policies based on evidence, in terms of citizen security, working in the sphere of Central America through this initiative that is the regional project that is called InfoSegura. I would like to tell you that the regional project InfoSegura is a project. Juan Pablo, I'm not sure if you can listen to me. She just muted her microphone and we have no signal. So, as I was saying, it is a project that is implemented in 6 countries from Central America: Guatemala, El Salvador, Honduras, Costa Rica, Belize, and Dominican Republic, and starts to expand and to support initiatives also in South America and other regions as well. And the project is part of the clusters of governability and pace from the regional center, which the ultimate goal is to contribute to improve the life of people. And in this case, we do so strengthening skills, building skills for the elaboration of security citizen policies with gender view based on evidence. We work with institutions from the states, although the entry point of our, together with the offices of PNUD in the countries, are the ministries of interior, police. The comprehensive view and the understanding of this issue of citizen security as part of the human security. We also work with Institutes of Statistics, Institute of Women, Ministry of Education, and institutions of the Justice Department, and also with the civil society. And the goal of what we like to accomplish is to contribute to strengthen and build capacities for what we say is to move from telling to understanding, from understanding to act, and acting to become and transform, and to find and help countries to find solutions or answers to different problems in terms of citizen security. To quickly summarize the context, you know that Latin America is the most violent and unequal region at the global level, with 8% of the population and focus 33% of homicides. And we, in the area of Central America, the homicide rates, murder rates, double in some countries the means of Latin America. So we work in a context with high levels of violence, where we have tried to help and contribute to create policies, legal frameworks, and a view of multi-dimensional analysis that can set the security problems linked to issues related to development, and to use evidence for public policies, working in a context with a lot of challenges that are linked to the quality of the data that are important progress. However, we still have information gaps, especially with high levels of lack of aggregation or better quality, in order to understand and to analyze the dynamic beyond the fact that the data increase or decrease. But the idea is to have institutions where the information analysis is strategic part that generate information for decision-making purposes of public policies, and also important challenges in the sustainability of processes, thinking on public policies, statewide policies in the long term. In that context, this is how we started working. We started in 2014, and we had high levels of lack of trust among institutions, fragmented information among the different sources, lack of availability, and lack of willingness of sharing data, and data with a validation process that was too low. And when they were finally available, they were not timely for the design of policies at a public level. Lack of articulation among the data production and the use and analysis for for public policies, the context of dissemination of information sometimes also had many challenges in order to move forward, in order to generate information and to analyze that, make it available of decision makers as a tool for public policies. And therefore, we also have the problem of digitalization and progress, especially in automation and the use of digital tools in order to work with the information with a character with more timeliness.
Within this framework, we began working. The conceptual framework is human development for the UNDP and the United Nations to speak of security without talking about development. They cannot be unlinked from issues of security. Without security, there is no development, and understanding security as citizen security, as the core of human security, as a public good, and that goes beyond the absence of crime, but rather as the opportunity of people to live a life free of violence. And so we began working to strengthen the capacities of state institutions and of civil society to create information that may contribute to the design of public policy that may also serve as tools to implement the public policy, monitoring the impact and a review when it is necessary to revise the public policy. The idea is to move ahead, building data ecosystems and integrating the data, also working with interoperability among the various sources. And now I will hand over to Juan Pablo Gordillo to continue telling you how we did this work, capacity building and data management with citizen security organizations and others related to the issue.
Gracias, Marcy. Gracias, colegas.
Thank
Bueno, en
you,
esa lógica de pasar de
Marcy
contar a
and
entender,
colleagues. Now, the
se
idea is
empezó a trabajar a
to
lo largo de la cadena de
understand
gestión
what
de la
was going
información desde la
on when we
producción,
were
el
working
análisis, el uso
throughout
en política
the
pública y la
information
difusión,
chain
también alineado en la
and
lógica del ciclo de las
aligned
políticas
with
públicas, buscando
the
generar un proceso de
umbrella of
acompañamiento
public
con evidencia
policy.
a lo
The
largo de todo el
idea
ciclo de
was
la
to
política pública,
accompany and searching
trabajando
for
no solo en
evidence
caracterizaciones
throughout
nacionales,
the
recolección de
process,
protocolos, y
collecting
elaboración de protocolos
protocols,
entre instituciones
drafting
para mecanismos de
protocols,
interoperabilidad, haciendo
and
análisis de
having
priorización y
interoperability
focalización,
among
generando índices de
agencies,
seguridad ciudadana y
focusing
violencia contra las mujeres y
and
las niñas,
creating
transitando
indexes
desde el
of
modelo de
citizen
observatorio a generar dentro
security
de las
and violence
instituciones
against
unidades de
women,
gestión de información,
basically working
esto
through
con miras a que
various
toda la
units
información que se
so that all of
produjera,
the
que se
information
recolectara, pudiese ser
produced and
usada en
collected
políticas
may be used
públicas de corte
for
multidimensional, integrando los
multidimensional public
datos, generando
policies,
plataformas de
integrating the
transparencia,
data,
sistemas de alerta
platforms for
temprana, denuncias
transparency,
online que
early
pudiesen
warning
acompañar a las
systems,
instituciones en el
online
proceso de el
reporting
aprovechamiento de esos datos
to
con un
make the
foco sobre
most
el
of the
territorio
data
y sobre las
focused
poblaciones
on
más
the
afectadas.
territories and the most
A lo largo
affected
de esa
populations.
cadena, digamos, logramos en la
But throughout the
implementación
chain, we
fortalecer
were
cada uno de esos
able,
eslabones de
through
gestión
the
de la información en todos
implementation,
los 6
strengthen
países de la
each
región.
chain,
Hemos
each
trabajado
link
con
in the
todos y
chain
logrado
in
generar
the
herramientas
region.
para la
We worked with
planificación,
everyone and
fortalecer el
created
enfoque de
tools
género,
to
generar un
plan,
mayor
focus,
conocimiento y
strengthening the
gestión del
gender
conocimiento alrededor de la
approach,
información y de
and
las
creating
evidencias, tal como lo
information
escuchábamos
based
en
on
el
the
panel ahora en
evidence,
la
as
mañana,
we
que
heard
decían hoy en día
during the
tenemos
panel
más
this morning,
evidencias
saying
y
that today we
gracias
have
Jesús
more
Segura, a
evidence
nivel de
than
la
before.
subregión tenemos más
And
evidencias,
at
hemos logrado
sub-regional
aprovechar un
level, we
poco más
have
de esas
more
evidencias
evidence
para tejer capas de análisis
to
multidimensional.
be able to have
Hemos logrado también
multidimensional
consolidar un set
analysis. And
básico de
also we've been able
indicadores
to
para todos los
consolidate a
países
basic set of
e ir
indicators for
fortaleciendo
all
los
countries
espacios
and
de
strengthening
intercambio y de
space for
interoperabilidad a
the
nivel de las
exchange and
instituciones para
interoperability among
distintos temas, sea
institutions
violencia
in
contra las
relation to
mujeres,
different
violencia
issues,
contra los
violence
niños,
against
niñas,
women,
adolescentes,
violence
violencia
against
homicida
girls, boys and
y otros tipos de
adolescents,
violencias que aquejan a
homicide,
la
and other
subregión.
forms of violence that
Asimismo,
affect the
herramientas
sub-region.
que han
Likewise,
logrado
tools
fortalecer las políticas
that
de la
have been
subregión, ya
able
las
to
veremos un poco más
strengthen the
adelante,
policies in the
y la
sub-region, as it
oferta
was
formativa y
explained,
oferta
and
investigativa a
also
través del fortalecimiento de
offers
una red de
training
conocimiento a lo
and
largo de
also
la región, la
research
red
to
Conoce, que algunos habrán escuchado de
further
ella,
the
donde
information
tenemos alrededor
throughout
de
the
14
region.
instituciones
We
de la
have
sociedad
about
civil
14 civil
interactuando con los
society
gobiernos
organizations that are
para
interacting with
acompañarlos
the
en todo el
governments in
proceso de
order to
socialización y diálogo
accompany
alrededor
them
de las
in this
políticas.
process regarding the
Algunos de los
socialization
resultados que
and
tenemos también,
discussion about
la
policies.
asistencia técnica que se ha
The other
brindado,
thing
no
is the
solamente la
technical
ha brindado desde
assistance
el equipo
provided
Nacional
not
del PNV
only
y
by the
Infosegura, sino también
UNDP
con los
regional
gobiernos,
team and
trabajando en una
Infosegura,
estrategia
but
uno a
also from
uno
the
para
governments working a
acompañar no
one-to-one
solo a un gobierno,
strategy in
sino que
order to
también se
accompany not
pueda
only the governments,
un experto de
but
Guatemala
also
acompañar
have
a un
an
experto de El
expert
Salvador,
in
un experto de
Guatemala
Dominicana
accompanying an expert
acompañar a
in
un experto de
Salvador,
Costa
or an
Rica.
expert from
Hemos logrado
Dominicana
una efectiva
accompanying an
incorporación
expert
de
from
este
Costa
enfoque
Rica. And so
de
we've been
violencia de
able
género
to
y de
integrate their
transversalización de
approach to
género a lo largo de
violence,
todo el ciclo de
gender,
vida,
throughout the life
fortaleciendo
cycle,
análisis
and
subregionales y
strengthening
análisis nacionales que
sub-regional and
consideren el
national
tema de género
analysis that
dentro del
consider the
foco,
issue of gender
los mecanismos
within
de
the
prevención.
focus
La
on
profundización de los
the
análisis
prevention
multidimensionales no
mechanisms, and
solo con
also
datos
further
de seguridad
elaborating on
ciudadana, sino datos también
multidimensional
de
analysis
desarrollo
with not
humano,
only
datos
data
también de
on citizen
salud, de
security, but
prevención,
human development,
el
health, and
acceso también
prevention,
con el
and
enfoque
access
de
with
datos
the
abiertos, como ustedes lo
open
verán
data
en
approach,
las
as you can
láminas,
see.
vemos que se han
In the
fortalecido sistemas
screen,
de
you can
alerta
see
temprana como
that early
Salve en
warning
El
systems such
Salvador,
as
el
Safe
portal de
Salvador have been
transparencia de la
strengthened,
Policía
the portal
Nacional
for
en el caso de El
transparency of
Salvador,
national policing in the case
todo
of
lo que han
Salvador,
sido
and everything
los mecanismos de interoperabilidad en
related to
Honduras y en
interoperability
Guatemala, en
mechanisms in
el
Honduras and
caso del
Guatemala,
CENIS,
in
para la
Honduras, the
priorización de
case of
territorios,
CENIS for
sumado a otros
priorization
factores
of
de
territories, in
oportunidades,
addition to
factores
other
socioeconómicos. El
opportunities,
CENIS es el
socioeconomic
Centro
factors,
Nacional del Sector Social en Honduras, para quienes no lo
and
conocen.
in
Y en el caso de
Honduras,
Guatemala, con el
the
Ministerio de
social issue,
Gobernación,
and the case of
en el
Guatemala,
caso
with the
de
Ministry of
prevención, a
Guatemala
través de
for
lo que es el
prevention,
CIPREVI,
through the
logramos integrar
CIPREVI,
más
that we
de
are able
6
to integrate
instituciones
more
y
than
sus
6
datos en una misma
institutions and
plataforma.
data and all
Esto
in
ha
one
generado
platform.
una
All of
sostenibilidad
this
de los
has
procesos
meant
entre las
that the
instituciones, la
processes have
transferencia de
become
conocimiento entre
sustainable
países y una
and
plataforma de
also
gestión del
sharing
conocimiento,
information
digamos,
among
unificada a lo
countries
largo de la
and a
subregión.
platform that has been
A nivel de
used
los
throughout.
impactos en las
Now, what
políticas,
has
acá
been the
tenemos un
impact
ejemplo en
on
el caso
public
del Plan El
policy?
Salvador
Here we have
Seguro,
one example in the case
donde
of the
trabajamos no
Salvador
solo en la
Seguro
priorización
plan,
de los
but we're
municipios
working on
a través del
priority
índice de
setting of
priorización, cómo generar
municipalities,
mecanismos de
how to
seguimiento a través de los
have
informes de
mechanisms to
monitoreo y los
follow up
mecanismos de
on this,
monitoreo,
based
análisis
on the monitoring
territorializados
mechanism,
comparativos anuales por
territorialized
etapas, por
analysis,
municipios dentro del
comparative by
plan, a
years,
lo
by
largo de cada
state,
uno
by
de los ejes del
municipality, and
plan.
throughout each
También hacemos
pillar
lecturas de
of
la
the plan.
política
And also
pública a lo
we read
largo
public policy
de las tendencias de los distintos años. En el caso de
trends
El
over
Salvador,
years.
trabajamos
In the
no
case
solo
of
con
El
el Plan El
Salvador, we've been
Salvador
working
Seguro,
with
también
not
estamos
only the El
trabajando en el
Salvador
proceso de
Seguro
monitoreo
plan,
del
but
plan
also
control
another
territorial. Hemos
monitored
visto en la
process at
subregión y en el caso de
territorial
El
level,
Salvador
and we
una
said in
caída
the
desde el
sub-regional
2015 en
level,
los
we've seen
homicidios.
a
Igualmente en
drop in
Guatemala
2015
trabajamos con
of
la
the
Estrategia Nacional de
homicides. And
Prevención
in
del Delito y
Guatemala, the
ahora con la
national
Política
strategy
General
for
de
the
Gobierno
prevention of
Igual, con
crime and
priorización,
another policy
focalización y
for the equal
mecanismos
government with mechanisms
de priorización de temas dentro de la política
to
pública
give
en la agenda
priority to
nacional.
certain
Y de igual manera
issues.
lo hemos trabajado con otros de los
And
países de la
likewise, we
región,
work
Honduras,
with other countries of
Dominicana,
the
Costa
region,
Rica.
Honduras, Dominican
Los
Republic, Costa
aprendizajes
Rica.
básicamente han
So,
sido
lessons
todo un
learned.
proceso de
This has
construcción de un
been an
análisis
entire
regional, de
process
un
putting
análisis
together a
nacional, alineado
regional
con
and
las
national
políticas públicas
analysis in
nacionales,
line with
trabajando con los
the
tomadores de decisión, con
national
los
public
técnicos
policies,
y con
working
los
on
niveles de
them with
recolección y
decision
captura de
makers,
la información,
technical people,
acompañando procesos de
and
formación,
accompanying the
acompañando
training
procesos de
processes
interoperabilidad
for
que sean más sostenibles, que
interoperability that are more
permitan el trabajo entre
sustainable and would
pares y que de
allow
alguna
peer
manera el
working,
enfoque
and that
multidimensional y
somehow
el género ahora
the
que
multidimensional
a la subregión.
throughout the entire
Esto es un
region.
poco de lo que
Well,
nosotros
that is a
hemos
little bit
hecho. Como lo
of
decía,
what we
Marcela, ha
have
sido un
done. As Marcela
esfuerzo
was
a
saying,
nivel
this effort
subregional, a
has
nivel de
been
los
at
países,
sub-regional
y
level,
desde
at
el
country level,
PNV, con el
and the
apoyo de
UNDP
USAID, a quien
with the
agradecemos por
support
todo
of
el
US
financiamiento que nos ha
aid. And
ayudado para
so we
acompañar
thank
todo
them
este
for all the
proceso.
help given to accompany
Hemos
this
logrado que los gobiernos
process.
generen una nueva
We've
mentalidad en torno al
been
proceso
able
de
to
gestión de
get
la
governments to
información,
have a new
que
way
las
to
políticas se robustezcan un poco
create,
más.
use
Nos queda mucho
the
camino todavía
information.
por
We
delante,
still have a
muchos
long way to
desafíos,
go.
pero
Yes, there are many
creemos que hemos
challenges
puesto un
still
grano de
ahead,
arena y
but
hemos
we do believe
contribuido a la
that
mejora de
we've
la gestión
put
de la
up our
información
grain
a
of
lo largo de
sand
la subregión. Ayer
throughout
veíamos en
the
el panel,
sub-region.
cuando nos
Yesterday, we were seeing in the
mostraba
panel
la colega que hizo la
when
investigación de
a
juventud,
colleague who
el
did the study
mapa,
on
donde se
youth,
decía que
we
en
showed
América
the maps,
Latina
and
casi
that
no
in
había
Latin
evidencias
America there
y
was
que había
almost
mucha
no
necesidad de
evidence,
política
and there was a
basada en
tremendous
evidencia. Pues
need
bueno,
for
desde
evidence-based
Infosegura hemos creído
policies.
que hemos
Well, we
contribuido
said
a
we
poner
believe
un
that
grano
we
de arena
have
en América
contributed to
Latina
put
en
up
torno a
our
la
grain of
gestión
sand in
de la
Central
información, en
America, at
torno a
least in
políticas
terms
basadas en
of information management and evidence-based policies. Thank you very much.